The newest patch of Marvel Snap has released, and with it came two balance changes: a nerf or rework to Leader, and a buff to Wolverine. I was a little bit more surprised by the buff to Wolverine, even though he was a undervalued, underplayed card. But I'm very interested in this buff, and I want to, explore what type of synergies you can try to find out in different destroy decks with him. So, if you haven't noticed, Wolverine is a 2/2 now instead of a 2/3, and when he is discarded or destroyed, regenerate it at a random location with +2 power. So essentially, if he gets destroyed at least once, he will be a 4 power, which is better than he was previously. So he'll continuously get stronger and stronger as he gets regenerated throughout the game. So I'm going to show you 3 different decks in which I think we can utilize this and, just kind of fit him into different schemes. So deck 1 is going to be all about Panther and Arnim Zola. So this deck is utilizing, and a lot of these cards you're going to see throughout all 3 lists, but this deck utilizes as its end game Black Panther, who on reveal will double his power, and then Arnim Zola, who will destroy Black Panther, summon additional copies at opposite locations, giving them more power. But if you get Wolverine big enough, Arnim Zola on Wolverine is actually pretty good, because he will destroy the Wolverine, summon 2 new copies, and then that initial destruction of Wolverine will summon a copy of itself as well. So it can be pretty cute that way. And for that reason, you do want to buff up Wolverine in this deck a little bit. You could also run Hulkbuster in here to buff Wolverine even more, but I'm using simply the Hood in Deadpool and Nova for some early 1-cost good destruction synergy. Then I'm using Bucky, Carnage, and Wolverine for my 2-cost cards. Then I'm using Nakia, who's really good again on Deadpool or on Wolverine or on Black Panther, really solid. And she recently also got buffed to 2 power, so she's actually pretty solid now. Killmonger and Deathlock, of course, to kill any of these early drops that I need. And then I'm using Death as another option, just because I'll probably be able to play her for, 3 to 4. This deck's not going to kill 100 things, but it's going to kill enough to make it worth it to run Death. And I'm not running Wave to make her cheaper or anything like that. I'm ignoring that synergy. She's just in here because she can fit and still be played for a decent cost. But this deck really tries to finish the game with Black Panther and Arnim Zola. There is an older video on my channel highlighting a deck very similar to this with Black Panther and Arnim Zola. If you need a little bit of recommendations on how to play the deck, check that video out. All right, let's go to deck 2. All right, deck 2 is a little bit different. It's actually all around Viper. So Viper is an on reveal. Your opponent gains control of one of your other cards at this location. And it's kind of on a synergy of kind of messing with your opponent. There's an old video on this deck as well, but it still is based around the Destroy archetype. But we want to give our opponent a bunch of crappy cards. We want to give them Green Goblin. We want to give them Hobgoblin. We want to give them the Hood after we play Viper on top of it, or we want to give rocks to our opponents after we play Debris by playing Viper on top of those rocks. But there's a lot of things we want to destroy in this deck, so we would like to destroy all of our early cost cards. We're also using Black Widow to troll the opponent a little bit even more with their hand. And then we use simple things like Carnage, Deathlock. We've been over this to destroy a lot of early cost cards, and Death can be played pretty cheaply in this deck since we will have hopefully a decent amount of cards to destroy. So we'll be able to play Death as well. This one is a little bit gimmicky. It's mainly a troll deck. Wolverine fits in it because he can still get destroyed and replaced and kind of maneuver around the board, gaining a little bit of traction as he goes, but it's not as all-in on Wolverine as, say, the last deck was, and not even as all-in as the third deck will be. But it can still have a really fun game plan of just trolling your opponent while playing a simple yet effective destroy synergy of, Bucky Barnes and Carnage, Bucky Barnes and Deathlock, etc. So we fill up your opponent's board with the really crappy cards as we just get a simple yet powerful early game from destroy. A lot of times you're going to win locations by just a few numbers. We're giving our opponent a lot of negatives and a lot of crap, so we don't need crazy power on our side. So even just having Wolverine get a little bit extra power is actually hugely beneficial for this deck. All right, let's go to the third and final deck of the video. Alright, the third and final deck is a variation of my brother's Destroy deck, utilizing Venom and Taskmaster, and he also loved Wolverine in this deck from the get-go, but it's even better now. So again, we want to buff Wolverine as we kill him, so we're going to kill him with things like Carnage and Deathlock, but you can actually use Hulkbuster quite funny on Wolverine, so you give Wolverine Hulkbuster, or in this deck you give Deadpool Hulkbuster, because when he dies he'll double to 10 right after that, which is huge. But if you give Wolverine Hulkbuster, he'll go up to a 6 power, and when he's destroyed he'll be an 8. But what you can do with that is play Venom on top of it. So you can play Venom on top of that Wolverine, give all of the power of the Hulkbuster Wolverine to Venom, so it'll be 6 power, unless he's got strength before that. It could be 8 power, etc. And then that Wolverine will respawn and gain 2 more power with Hulkbuster still attached. So you will absorb 6 power into Venom, and then a Hulkbustering Wolverine will spawn to the right or to the left, wherever, with that same +4 power, now getting an additional +2, going up to 8 power. That's a crazy combo. You get a lot of utility in that. You're getting a bunch of power into Venom while also keeping a bunch of power and growing it on Wolverine. Really, really strong combo here. Then we are using Taskmaster to copy that power of Venom. So ideally you're doing that. You know, your turn 2 could be Wolverine, your 3 could be Hulkbuster, and then your 4 could be something like maybe the Demon from Hood and Venom on top of that giant location. And then turn 5 you can Taskmaster that and get a ton of power while also having Wolverine on the board, and so on. This deck utilizes as well though Wave and Death, so all these decks are using Death because they're Destroy decks. So if you have her, she's really solid. If you don't, it's okay. You could fit some other Destroy type cards in this deck. Like some of these decks aren't running Sabretooth or Nova or Killmonger. They can kind of slot in if you don't have her. But Wave will reduce the cost of Death by 4, so as long as you've killed will bring her cost to 4, and she'll be reducing her own cost by how many things you've destroyed. So as long as you've killed 2 things, Death will cost 2. Going into turn 6, that'll allow you to play Death on turn 6 for 2, and any other card in your deck, ideally Taskmaster, and then you can play a ton of power. Or even late in the game, you can play your giant Deadpool, because it's a deck that can really get Deadpool huge with Hulkbuster and a lot of ways to trigger the death of Deadpool. So that is the last deck. It's probably my favorite out of the bunch. Shout out to my brother who made it. It's really, really solid. You should definitely play it if you're looking to utilize some new Wolverine action. So hopefully you guys enjoy some of these decks. There are videos on all 3 of these decks, or at least variations of all 3 of these decks on my channel. So if you're looking for specifics in gameplay, other types of tips for the deck itself, go back, check those 3 videos out, and help yourself to some more content. Thank you guys for checking this video out. Make sure you're liked, subscribed, and commenting on this video to help the channel grow as best as we can. And as always, keep on snapping.